Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our annual meeting is always a special time to look back and look forward and get reacquainted or meet new friends. But tonight is particularly special because of our 50th anniversary. So 50 years is just remarkable, and some of you folks here are related to early board members or are an early board member, and we'll talk about some names that will ring true to many people as we go forward. I just want to recognize a couple of town people who have official capacities who are here. Joe Fisher from our select board, and Emily Sullivan, our really good friend, collaborator from the Hingham from the Hingham Conservation Commission. Also, Bill Reardon from the Harbor Development Committee, who we've worked closely with on some of our programs. And we'll talk about other notable people as we go through the program. So let me talk about what we're going to cover tonight. First, as always, we will have a fairly brief business meeting, and the business of the meeting is to elect a slate of officers for the year to come. We have one recommended slate, and you'll see who they are in just a moment. Then we're going to talk about the 50th anniversary. First, some highlights of that first half century, and then looking forward, we will announce some very special initiatives being launched in our 50th anniversary year. We will have time for some audience sharing if there's special memories you have, or if you have questions or comments based on the content that we've shared. That would all be welcome at that point. And then we will go down to the beautiful second floor ballroom for some refreshments. So hope you can all linger just a bit tonight. We don't expect the program to run terribly long, so there'll be enough time for us to have some sharing in person during the reception. So on to the business of the meeting. Our 2022 board slate. The first thing you'll note is that we're having a change in the chair. I am stepping down, and Art Collins, who's just been a wonderful partner with me as vice chair, is stepping up to be chair of the board for this next term. And then we have, what I'm going to do is ask every board member to stand as I read their names. So Art Collins, Tom Bright, our treasurer, Helmut Finkenwerth, our secretary, Martha Falvey, our longest serving member on the current board, Joel Goloski, Don Kidston, Mark I don't think is, yeah, I'm Eileen McIntyre, Elizabeth Moles, Rick Rolliter, and I haven't seen Daniel. He may not be able to make it. So what I'd like to ask is for a voice vote. All of you who are here are welcome to do that. If you approve the slate as presented here for the next year to manage the affairs of the Hingham Land Conservation Trust. Do I hear ayes? Aye. Any nays? Okay, well, thank you very much, and congratulations to the board. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you going forward. So, 50 years. In 1972, a group of visionary leaders created the Hingham Land Conservation Trust, and what wonderful things not only the trust, but others who got involved in the conservation movement at that time have done for our town. Here you see the names of those founding members. Sally Goodrich, who we'll talk a little bit about later because of one of our 50th anniversary initiatives, and her son Chuck is here. Chuck, could you just stand, wave? Thank you so much for coming from the North Shore. Sylvia Whittemore will also mention a little later, and Helen Burns. Stuart DeBard, whose daughter is with us tonight. Ellen, thank you so much for coming. Will Ertman will mention a little later too. Frank Gregg, Lou Niles, everyone remembers his wife as well, who did so much for the town, including for the Land Trust, and Phil Swanson, who was the longtime leader of the walks, wonderful educator.
Great science teacher.
Great science teacher, I know, was beloved in the schools. And our scholarship our annual scholarship to a Hingham High School student is named for Phil Swanson. So that was the beginning. And at the time that they founded the Land Trust, 1972, for those of you who were of age, I certainly was, I was in college, or actually just graduated from college, but it was the first Earth Day was a teach-in. It was all about educating people about the environment. It wasn't just all let's go out and celebrate and fly kites. It was really very serious stuff. The EPA was founded around that time. Everyone was concerned about clean air and clean water. Climate change wasn't part of the conversation for most people. It was really about understanding how to keep our air clean and also to conserve land. So they were part of a nationwide movement, but it really took people like Sally Goodrich to get people together and make this happen for Hingham. And as she got people together, she was mindful of people who both had interests and conviction around conservation and also had access to land. In those days, it was much more common for people to own very large tracts of land, and it was before conservation restrictions were a thing, and so they were gifting land. And in this case, we are the beneficiaries of 3 of these wonderful philanthropists. Jacob's Meadow was given by Helen Burns. We talked a lot about Helen last year when we did a special program on the history of Jacob's Meadow and how it came to be known as Jacob's Meadow. Eel River Woods was given by Mary Niles, whose husband Lou we just mentioned. And Whortleberry Hollow was given by Suvia Whittemore. So just wonderful families, couples, and individual women like Helen Burns who believed in conserving land. Recently, as part of our ongoing stewardship of the properties we're responsible for, we've added some benches. In one case, it's to replace a bench that many, many years ago had unfortunately been destroyed. But we are naming these benches and honoring some of our early board members. So these fairly recent benches at Jacob's Meadow, one honors Helen Burns, who gave us the land, and Will Ertman, a longtime board member, whose family you see here joined us to launch that bench. And we had fun on what would have been his birthday during COVID. I think it was just last September, I think it was, we did. Someone very special to our town and also to the Land Trust we lost this year. Monique Lehner, and her daughter, Brigitte, is with us tonight. And Brigitte, could you just wave? What a wonderful legacy this family represents. Monique joined the board of the Hingham Land Conservation Trust in 1978, so pretty early on. And in 2015, when she was leaving Hingham to be closer to family and with Brigitte, the then board chair, Charles Corky Wills, said in his tribute to her that she had set the gold standard for volunteer commitment. And that's really kind of an understatement, I think, when it comes to what the Lehner family has done. Their legacy is a love for the land, making it possible for the town of Hingham, and now under the stewardship of the Conservation Commission, to acquire the Lehner property, now known as the Lehner Conservation Area. It was just a tremendous gift to the town, not only because it's open space, because it's in the heartland of our watershed. And it connects with Jacob's Meadow and some other Conservation Commission land. So 100 square acres in the middle of our town, in the heart of the watershed, a very special place and a very important place for our town. So thank you, Brigitte, for joining us tonight. We're thinking of your mom and the whole family's legacy. So the Land Trust is known for many things. One is our seasonal walks. And we had to take a little pause during COVID. There was 1 year where we had no seasonal walks. But then we missed them so much that we decided to create a virtual walk. So last spring, when we still felt it was not time yet for big groups to get together, we worked with our longtime guide, Steve Ivis, who's just wonderful and knows a lot about water and early spring, all kinds of things that he can talk about on a parcel like Jacob's Meadow, and Rick Rollader, who's the steward of Jacob's Meadow, and we put together a virtual walk at Jacobs Meadow. And that's available on our website. So we try new things, but now we're back to our regular schedule of in-person walks. And in the fall, we took people to the Weir River Watershed System, Weir River Water System property, which we had not accessed in many, many years, and walked trails there. Some of them, it was a real hike. Some of them involved going up on an esker. And it was a really nice sized crowd that came out for that, so that was terrific. And then we did a walk starting on Union Street, I guess it was, near the high school, into the watershed area along the Weir River to understand what happens with the fish when there are obstacles in the way, and what some folks, including one of our board members and his trout fishing buddies, have been doing to help clear the tributaries of trees that were growing up during drought conditions and blocking those tributaries that join up with the Weir River and are important for the fish to get through. So we learned a lot on that. It's always a little educational as well as exercise. And we had other friends join us to talk about Triphammer Pond and just the watershed in general. So that was another great opportunity to educate as well as allow everyone to get some fresh air and exercise. Some of our walks and programs also bring the history of our parklands to light. Always on the back of our map, you've seen a little bit about the history, but we've had some programs that dove a little bit deeper. Not only the Jacobs Meadow program that I talked about, where we went back to 1633, talking about that family, which became the Jacobs family, associated not only with Jacobs Meadow, but Jacobs Pond in Norwell. But we, in 2019, partnered with Martha Reardon Buick to talk about Tranquility Grove and a very important historic abolition event that took place there. And there we collaborated, as we do on so many programs, in that case with New North Church and the minister there, Steve Osella, and with the League of Women Voters, who helped to recreate some of what the march or the walk to the Tranquility Grove was like, and certainly our partners at the Hingham Conservation Commission, which is responsible for the Burns Memorial Park, which is what remains of Tranquility Grove. So that was a just fabulous experience to combine history, exercise, fresh air, and get to a place that people often hadn't been to. It had been a little overgrown. So, and then with Bill Reardon here, I just wanted to remember that we did a program about the history of land use and evolution of that land use at the front of the harbor near downtown Hingham. It was quite an exploration to get through all that history and all the different waves of history that harbor front represents. And Bill and Andrea Young from the Hingham Historic Commission joined us for that. And then shortly thereafter, I think a year or so later, Bill and his committee approached me about using some of that content and embellishing it, diving even deeper so that we could create historic signs. People could walk along the harbor, along those wonderful brick paths that have been created, and learn something about these waves. You know, Hingham as a mackerel fishing capital, Hingham harborfront there as a big, heavy manufacturing and gritty area, shipbuilding, many other, the steamships that came into the wharves there. So there's 6 signs that really, the content grew out of a program we had done with Bill and his committee members. Other kinds of collaborations, very recently, during COVID times, we got to work on what we had planned to do and kept going, and Art really took the lead on this, but with collaborators, and created a pollinator garden at a triangle garden at Bear Cove Park that had become overgrown. Volunteers used to plant things there, but were no longer able to do that, and so with a lot of work from volunteers, so that was a partnership with Bear Cove Park Committee to get the permissions from the town, and with the Wild Ones, the local chapter of the Wild Ones, which is a natural, local native plant, thank you, native plant organization, and volunteers from the area. So we got that planted, and it's continuing to thrive as a pollinator garden, as it should. You don't have to care for it year after year. You have to weed here and there, but It's still there. And then we collaborate with the Scouts, and Rick Rollader really brought a lot of energy to us around making sure we continue to collaborate with Scouts on a regular basis. And this is one example of one of the Eagle Scout projects that have emerged from that. That was at Whortleberry Hollow. You know, these boardwalks that you create over wetland areas to make them safe deteriorate over time. And so we had a few of them at Whortleberry Hollow needed to be replaced, and an Eagle Scout candidate eager to get that designation. So lots of collaborations in the work that we do. Our annual meeting programs, as you can tell from the panels assembled here, are also collaborations. Here are just examples of the deep dive we do to teach people things that are important for them to know as they live in Hingham and in the world and on the planet, to learn a little bit about climate change and the natural world, understanding our watershed and how it all works. Things like that are often what we choose for our annual meetings, and we bring in the experts that we need. We are often associated with this map, and you'll hear a little bit more about what the next step for this map is. But the Parklands for the Public map is 40 years old. So we're 50, but the map is 40 years old. It's been through a number of iterations, and the 6th edition, which is here, but now if you want to get a copy, it now has a 50-year sticker on it, was dedicated to a longtime chair of the Land Trust, Kathy Reardon, who's here with us tonight. So it's really one of our identities, map, but you'll see we're bringing it even to another level of usefulness in what Art's going to cover tonight. So property stewardship is part of who we are, and we have 3 accessible properties. Some of the property we own, and we have 65 acres in Hingham, is wetlands, not terribly accessible, but important to conserve. But the 3 properties that I mentioned earlier, Eel River Woods, Jacobs Meadow, Whortleberry Hollow, have wonderful stewards. We are a roll-up-your-sleeves board, and I just want to give a shout out to each of these property stewards. Don Kidston, over here, who's the steward of Eel River Woods. Jacobs Meadow, I mentioned before, Rick Rollader is the steward. And for Whortleberry Hollow, Daniel Wells. And not only these 3 hardworking board members, but others on the board participate in cleanups. They go out after storms and make sure the paths are clear. They notice when we need something like a bridge replaced over a wetland area, go through all the process with the town to make sure we have the necessary approvals for Eagle Scout projects, et cetera. So it's part of what we do is be really excellent stewards of the properties we own. We also, as some of you know, own or hold conservation restrictions, and this is both private and some public land, 118 acres in all, and that involves some annual inspections to make sure that the land is being used appropriately. Every conservation restriction is a little different in what it allows in terms of land use, but we monitor that through annual inspections. So looking forward, with all that groundwork, all of that is, much of that is things that are going to continue year after year, but we have some new things to talk about. I'm going to turn it over to our now chair, recently elected as part of the slate, Art Collins, who's going to talk first about the website and the map.
Thank you, Eileen.
This is
Should have come the other direction.
the arrows on the
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much, Eileen. And I realize I have some very big shoes to fill in taking over for Eileen. She's done a wonderful job and brought so many things. I think these collaborations that she was just talking about are things that are kind of, I think I have to bend down more, huh? I wonder if there's a way to make it higher. I'll just lean over. Okay. So I was just saying these collaborations that Eileen was just describing very much have her mark on them, because she has the unique ability to bring together all the different organizations in the community, and has connections, and is a student of history, and has done a great job pulling all those things together. So as we said, we're gonna unveil these these 3 new exciting initiatives. First, talking about the website, which actually is a 4th if we think about it that way. And then update to the Parklands for the Public map. And then it'll be going back to Eileen to talk about the Sally Goodrich Environmental Research Grant, which is very exciting as well. And then Don Kitson will give us an update on properties, and then announce this new 50 Walks project, which is also something I'm really excited about. Okay, so the new update to the website. So Katie Sutton, who many of you know from KL Sutton Design, has been hard at work refreshing the design of our website. And so I'm not going to go and take you on a tour of the website, but I encourage everyone to go take a look at it. Go to www.hinghamlandtrust.org at your soonest convenience and check it out. It just looks better. It's also organized better and a lot easier to navigate. And so go ahead and check that out when you get a chance. So the other initiative we talked about is the refresh to the Parklands for the Public map. And so you may know that the existing map is, as you said just now, I didn't realize, I didn't do the math, 40 years old. It's based on a 1982 hand-drawn plan that was compiled by Cap Vinyl, and it was last updated in 2017, as we saw, in a 6th edition, which honored Kathy Reardon. And so we've got the new edition, in addition to some property updates that are made on it. We've got some, it's been generated with a more accurate digital map foundation. So it's based on surveys and data from the town of Hingham and Massachusetts GIS, as well as OpenStreetMap. So what that's going to do is allow us to make updates a lot more easily in the future, as well as do things like add layers of information, connect it with other maps and other sites and things like that, which is exciting. And so this 7th edition, it'll be called, of the map, it honors Michael A. Austin, who was a former HLCT board member, and he sadly passed away in 2011, but his continued support through a generous bequest from his family is going to allow us to make these enhancements and keep this valuable resource available to the community going forward. I also wanted to give a shout out to Lars Alzen, who some of you may know. He's on the board of the Friends of Wampatuck State Park, and he's a very talented amateur cartographer who's the one that has created the Wampatuck maps that hopefully if you've been out there, you've had to use one of those to keep from getting lost out there. So he's worked with us to create this new digital version of our map. And so for now, the map is only available on our website, which again, I encourage you to go check it out as soon as you can get a chance to. But in the near future, we'll be producing another printed version. We still just have a supply of the old ones left, and so we're gonna be responsible and hand those out before we do another printing. Okay, so now I just want to hand it back over to you, Eileen, to talk about the Goodrich. I should go this way. Keep from tripping over wires.
So Sally Goodrich, what a special person she was, as Chuck, her son, will attest. And I was really privileged to be at a memorial service that the family had for her at the Cape. And the stories about her, the dimensions of her that I learned there just reinforced the respect I had for what she had done for Hingham in creating the land trust by bringing all these people together. Here's some from our archives, some photos, Sally at a 4th of July parade, and here, wonderful group of baby pictures here. Monique Lehner and former board member and board chair for a while, Martha Horn. Ginger Winslow, who looks as young as ever, is with us tonight, is in this picture. This is Ginger then, and look, doesn't she look the same now? And you can say the same for Kathy. So anyway, wonderful vintage pictures to look at. So Sally is just, I'm going to look at my notes because in her case, it's really important. Let me get my notes on Sally. too many pages in, okay. So one of the things I thought is a good way to characterize her is that she is a force of and for nature, because she cared about the environment for watershed, wildlife protection, for the importance of land conservation for our health and the well-being of neighborhoods. She really believed in neighborhood parks. So in '72, she brought together this team of individuals who shared her passion for the environment and then spearheaded the work that inspired several gifts of land, those that we've talked about, as well as conservation restrictions, which were a new thing that came later, to protect open space. And I'm delighted that Chuck could be with us tonight. Starting from a gift that was part of Sally's estate to the Land Trust, I talked with Chuck and his brother, and this gift was given in honor of another brother, Robert, who died young. But it was open-ended, and I said to Chuck and John, we'd really like to do something special with this gift. And what we did before we did anything is we decided we wanted to grow it into a larger fund. And so we reached out to longtime supporters, some of you in the room today, with a target of growing this fund. We wanted to have, to launch this initiative we had in mind, we wanted to have $50,000 in hand. We now have just over $60,000 in hand. So we are launching the, let me go to the next slide, Sally Goodrich Environmental Research Fund. This is a fund that is dedicated in a special account that will be used to provide probably one research grant a year of $5,000. Could be less depending on who applies and what their goals are, but we're anticipating one grant of $5,000 a year. And these would be for projects that either assist in the conservation of local open space, and when we say local, it's Hingham and surrounding communities. So conservation of local open space, land and water, in support of the flora and creatures of the land, the water and air, and for all of us, and our health and enjoyment. And also, we'll look at opportunities to improve access to or encourage residents to enjoy and respect the importance of our parklands and conservation areas. So maybe someone could research connections between properties or biking between properties, those kinds of things. So in the material that will be on our website, we actually have a list of 20 or so ideas, really idea starters for what these projects might be. And we'll be looking to organizations to apply. Eligible applicants would include town conservation departments, and I've already met with Emily, and I'm meeting tomorrow with the Hull Conservation Department, so we're meeting with the conservation heads in the surrounding towns as well. Could be organizations based on environmental issues in the area. Think of the Weir River group, the North and South Rivers, those kinds of organizations that are very conscientious about conservation and environmental issues, or college and university environmental studies programs. We've formed, as we were working on 50th anniversary initiatives, we formed a 50th anniversary committee. Barbara Wallen, a former board member, and Kathy Reardon, who I've already mentioned, along with Don Kidston and myself, are on that committee. And Barbara reached out to a number of universities, so we are going to, in advance of launching the material on our website, let them know that this is coming so that we can get some good quality applications for this grant. So as I said, the dedicated fund we have now will allow for an annual grant of $5,000 for a dozen years or so. But we do expect to continue to refuel the fund, so we'll have a dedicated checkoff going forward on our envelopes that we send out for contributions, and on our website we already have a dedicated checkoff so people can dedicate specifically to this fund. So the timing on it is first award, I'll put this back a second. First award will be announced in January. We're going to be soliciting the applications in the fall, meeting as a committee, and Chuck Goodrich is joining to represent the Goodrich family on the Award Committee. Barbara is going to be on as well. We've enlisted Steve Ivas, our wonderful guide and wetlands specialist, to bring some science in as we look at these applications. And Don, I think you were going to join us too. I can't remember now how many people we have. We have 5 people, yeah. We want to have at least one current board member, at least one former board member, and then someone representing the science community and someone from the Goodrich family. So a group of 5 we thought was a good number. So we'll have work to do in the fall, and we'll be announcing it publicly sometime this summer. And materials will be on our website, and will be already some basic material. There'll be a downloadable application form. So now we'll turn it over to Don, who's going to talk a little bit about properties and the 50 Walks Initiative.
I guess in general, the 50 Walks Initiative was to identify 50 walks of broad variety through town that people could use and provide a tool to access those 50 walks to present on our website. And the background, I think, in trying to develop the 50 walks was to do a bit of a recap of what we have in town. For one, we have an extraordinary amount of resources, as demonstrated by our map of the community. Much of it is green, so we have more open space, I think, than just about any other community around. Within that open space, we have another feature that's very attractive to walkers, which is a wide variety of land. By virtue of the fact that the community was influenced greatly by the Ice Age and glaciers, we have a tremendous number of variable formations in town. We have eskers, ridges, valleys cut by the glaciers. We have meadows, trees, rivers, ocean, front property, just great variety to choose from. We also have, over the years, the creation of this map came about through the acquisition and assembly of property. And we were fortunate in one way to have military bases in Hingham. The downside is having military bases in Hingham. The upside is the remnants of those military bases gave us quite a bit of open space in Wampatuck State Park, Bear Cove Park, and Stotter's Neck. We have, as has already been discussed, been beneficiaries of gifts or acquisitions of property by public entities. The trustees of reservations through the has acquired World's End, Turkey Hill, Weir River Farm, Whitney Thayer Woods, and the town in and of itself has acquired a great deal of, or is responsible for a great deal of property throughout the town through many entities. The Conservation Commission, School Department has public open space around many of the elementary schools. The Harbor Development Committee has control over much of the property along the harbor front. The result is that we have great opportunities, great variety of land, and tremendous public control. The Land Trust, as has been discussed, has contributed to that massive property through 3 major properties: Eel River Woods, Jacobs Meadow, Waterbury Hollow, and in a total of 9 parcels, the rest, the other 6 being smaller. We also have 11 private conservation restrictions and 4 town-owned private conservation restrictions. The purpose for, or the motivation for developing this 50 walks is to celebrate our 50th anniversary, is to honor those who have preceded us in helping to assemble those properties throughout the community, and to promote the enjoyment of nature, as quoted on our map, Parklands for the Public map. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks, a quote from John Muir. So the mission is to enjoy the open space, the public. The goal of the 50 Walks exercise was to create a tool for walkers to easily select from 50 Hingham walks those that meet their needs. So it was identify 50 walks by their characteristics, including length, ease of walk, trail surface, and other features. So the walks we chose for the 50 walks are a great variety. Some are short, easy to walk. Some are long, steep, difficult to walk. Some have water views. Some contain walks over eskers, up steep hills. For the selected walks, we provide a description of the property, some background, a description of the walk itself, so you could know where to go, coupled with a site map if a site map was available. The people who contributed to developing the 50 walks were fellow board members who got out and walked each of the 50 walks to make sure they were on the mark, so to speak, and particularly Katie Sutton, who did a fantastic job in creating the program to present these, to access these 50 walks. There are essentially three elements to this page. One is, on the left side, the activities you want to embark in. So the type of activity you want to undertake, just walk, hike, trail biking, running, road biking. You can choose one of those, and that will narrow the number of walks. There's a number next to each of the activities. A route type, the nature of the trail. Is it a trail 3 feet wide? Is it a path of medium width, 5 feet, 6 feet, thereabouts? Or is it wide as a road? Is it 10, 12 feet? If those things are concerns to you. Difficulty, is it easy? Is it moderate? Is it difficult? Is it walking up a steep hill? Is it walking over a tree root sticking up, rocks all over the place in the path? Or is it easy? Is it a paved road, nice and smooth? The length of the walk. This shows them from about a half mile to 3.2 miles, a bit over 3 miles. So depending upon how far you want to walk or how long your walk is. Typically people walk at a pace of 3 miles per hour. So 20 minutes is a 1 mile walk. So you can choose among each of these things in terms of selecting your walks. On the map, on the right side of the screen, the images mark a trailhead in each of the locations in Hingham. So I'll pick one in honor of Kathy Reardon and her husband, the Hingham Harbor Walk. And if you can relate to mapping, you can choose your walk by using the map. And the third way of choosing locations for walks is the photographs that pan down on the left side. Each photograph contains the name of the location, the park that the map is in, and the name of the trail. So the first one on the left is Bear Cove Park, Indian Point and Woods. Bear Cove Park, the North Loop, and so on. So what I was going to suggest, just as a test, is we have someone from the audience, identify characteristics they want to take for a walk and see how this tool works in choosing a walk.
So how about a walking trail activity?
That would be easier than getting the mouse to work.
It's hard to do it when it's far away from you. You want me to do that part?
Walking. I'm sorry, what was the second characteristic?
Oh, you got it.
Moderate?
You got it.
Moderate.
And then path.
That identifies 27 walks. How about the length?
A lot of walks to do.
How about the length of
Ooh, let's go over 2 miles.
If I go up here.
I don't think we have any between 1.4 and 2 miles.
You have those choices.
How many
Okay.
choices does she have now?
11.
Do you need dog rules?
Ooh.
Would you like a shorter walk than 2.9? You're down to 3 walks. You want to see what they are, and you can pick one?
Sure, yeah.
Foundry Pond and Glastonbury Abbey. Wampatuck State Park, Accord Brook, Woodpecker Pond. And World's End, Dandy Meadow, Rocky Neck. So what you get for that choice is a photograph of Foundry Pond in the winter. Then you get 3 pieces of information, one of which is you get text that describes some background information on Foundry Pond. Notes that it's owned by the town of Hingham. The site, Foundry Pond, Glastonbury Abbey, is owned by Hingham and Glastonbury Abbey.
And there's a test after you do.
And spelling counts.
Both Native Americans and colonists used weirs to catch herring, and that's how the river got its name. But there's more general information on the site. The second thing you get is a description of the walk itself, and that's pretty simplistic. It says where you begin the walk, which is on Weir Street, or the deserted section of Weir Street, tells you how to get there. And it tells where the path goes, where you turn left, where you turn right, etc. And the third piece, which for most walks they do exist, is a property map. That shows the Foundry Pond property in this instance.
And now can I give her a prize?
Now she can get the prize. But the point is through this exercise, which is easier using a laptop computer, you can find from the 50 walks, which are very diverse, a walk that suits whatever it is you're looking for in a given day in terms of length, if it's a waterside walk, if it's an inland walk, if it's a hillside walk, and so on. And by using this tool, it gets you to the walk, describes the property, a little background on the property, its history, and so on, and gives a detailed description, walk here, walk there, turn left, turn right, and a map if one exists. So,
I just want to give a round of applause to Don. What you may not realize is that we did not hire a high-priced consulting firm to create all of this information, to select walks, to actually go out there and walk and chart and decide where to turn left and right. Don did that. And he gave credit to board members who did some quality checking, but that was quality checking the walks that he had defined. Now, in some cases, they existed from trails that he was able to access, but he went out there and made sure they worked. And this was just a tremendous undertaking. And it was just, I think Kathy Barber was a little over a year ago that we started this whole thing and said, oh, gee, maybe 50 walks. And Don said, that sounds like a great idea. And the next thing, he was at it. So it's just extraordinary. And, you know, as he said, Katie Sutton did a wonderful job in then making it possible through your computer to access this information. But all of it was charted out, Excel sheets, et cetera, by Don. So just, I can't say enough about what an amazing job this was.
You
So-
get a certificate when you complete the 50?
Well, that's a very good question, Mark. And, you know, the trustees and others have done various things when they suggest that people get out and do trails and North and South Rivers. You know, there's various people that have done things where you get stamps or some kind of award. That may come in the future. Getting to this stage was amazing.
There is a badge of hiking the Blue Hills. Did you hike them all?
Yeah, certainly there are various things we can do. We can have activities associated with these walks, but getting it launched was our objective for our 50th anniversary, and I'm just in awe that we got to this stage. So thank you again to Don. Now I have to get the mouse to work again.
Eileen, in this 50th year, are you planning to do the 50 walks?
Am I?
Sponsor 50 walks?
Well, I just got back from a national parks tour. I did a lot of walking at many national parks in the Southwest. That was pretty awesome. So I'm motivated because I know we've got 50 walks I can do. Okay, so we thought we'd give the audience a little turn here. So let me go back to the slideshow mode. Anyone want to share anything? Ask a question, make a comment, or share a memory of these 50 years, your experience of the Land Trust?
I remember when my father was on the Conservation Commission and Planning Board and so on, they had 19 parks in Hingham. He was very proud of the fact that there were 19 parks. How many do you have now?
So in terms of just the properties themselves, Don, do you have a count of that?
No, I got this. Only Parklands, the public
Well-
is 77.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
His birthday is Friday. He'd be very happy.
So Stuart DeBard, her dad is who she's talking about. Yeah, wonderful. Other questions, comments, memories? In the back. Chuck.
I'd just like to, on behalf of my brother and I and our family, express our appreciation, our very deep appreciation for what you've done with my mom's attempt to create a little bit of a legacy grant here. And she would be very proud. She's looking down with a smile right now, I'm sure. But you know, it's wonderful work that this organization has done through the years. And it's funny, for me, as a teenager, I grew up, you know, my mom was relentless about going after Helen Burns, Sylvia Whitmore, you know, and another time she would have been a pretty damn good salesperson. But those two women were not going to go to their graves without signing up to give their properties away. And it was interesting, I think it was you, Art, who talked about 3 miles an hour, or maybe I've got the wrong person. Sylvia Whitmore was pretty much 4 or 5 miles an hour. She was unbelievable. One of her strides would leave any healthy person in the dust. And she was, you know, they were both just these fiercely independent women. And it's, I think, great that those legacies live on for all that time. Phil Swanson was just such a character. I'm sure some of you knew him, but he'd put on that pork pie hat and go off for his little walks at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And just was an encyclopedia. So it's, for me, kind of memory lane to have all these names swirling around. And again, for my mom, who just would get so annoyed when a piece of land would get built up. I think it might have been Liberty Pole that pushed her over the edge. And some of you probably lived there, my apologies. But yeah, you know, it was just a town in transition back then. And I think it's pretty remarkable how Hingham has held the line, because so many other communities haven't been as fortunate to have support for conservation and civic-minded people like Helen and Suvia and the Niles family to keep those properties for future generations. So again, thanks, and can't be more appreciative of how you, Eileen, have dug into this. I doubt Eileen asked any of you to listen to this interview that she did with my mom back when my mom was in good health, but I listened to all 90 minutes or whatever on the long drive, admittedly. But Eileen is just such an interesting and wonderful interviewer, and she got a lot out of my mom that I didn't know, and that was a really special gift. So thanks for all you did to sort of bring this to life.
Well, thank you, Chuck. You know, it was funny, when I went to interview your mom, it was because Kathy told me we had to do something for the newsletter about Suvia. And, you know, she said, well, I know who you should talk to. And so I went over to Linden Ponds. And I just thought to put my phone on to record so I wouldn't have to take notes and we could just have an engaging conversation. And that was the result of it. And then I realized when I was in touch with Chuck after his mom had passed, I had these recordings. So I sent them on to him. So yeah, it's precious to hear someone talk about things that they're passionate about, and she was. And thank you, Chuck, for your agreeing to be on our committee that's going to review these applications. It's going to be great to have someone from the family involved. Another question or comment from the back?
Oh yeah, this is just a question about dogs, actually. I wondered, for people that aren't familiar with where they can walk their dogs, and can their dogs be off leash, and have you ever thought of creating a little short user guide, dog-friendly places? I actually take care of my son's dog occasionally from New York, so there seems to be tons of dog parks where he is, and it doesn't seem to be quite so easy to walk your dogs here often.
I think, and I don't have a dog presently, so I haven't looked at it recently, but I think there are Facebook pages locally, South Shore, for dog walkers, where people share information about where you can walk your dog. I'm pretty sure if you go on Facebook and probably search by Dogs Hingham, you would find some of those pages.
It's just when I lived in Situate, they had a really good one on the Driftway. They set it up because people said we need a place to walk the dog. They set it in as well.
Yeah, it's not really a focus for us, it hasn't been, but
there's more and more dogs. I just thought,
Right.
I live in Bay Cove, so every day I see tons and tons of dogs. So.
Right. Yeah, and you might check Facebook, because I think there are groups that have formed that share information about dog-friendly places. Otherwise, we have some wonderful refreshments that have been brought in downstairs, both food and drink, and we invite you all to join us and continue the conversation. So thank you again to Harbor Media for recording this. We'll be making it available in the future on our website, and Harbor Media can air it through their various digital means as well. So thank you, Christina, for being here tonight, as always. That's it.
thank you.